Hello and happy Friday, and thanks for tuning in to RadioFreeRhinecliff.org and this show in particular. Correct me if I'm Norm. I'm your host, Norm. I'm thrilled to be here tonight with Erin Hobson. Hi, Erin.
Hi, Norm. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming in and bringing your guitar.
It's here.
It's a gorgeous guitar. It's a Taylor?
It's a Taylor, yeah.
And have you had it long?
Oh, yeah. This is, gosh. I played electric for years. Never really acoustic, and then when I was in my early 20s, I decided I was going to start playing acoustic guitar, and this was my first and only acoustic guitar that I've ever owned.
Oh, wow.
So I think I bought it in 2001 or 2002.
Uh-huh. So you started on electric?
Yeah. Yeah, most people start on acoustic, but I started with electric.
And what possessed you to pick up the electric guitar, and how old were you?
Believe it or not, the band Kiss.
Kiss. Really?
As weird as that is, yes. Well, I used to see them on TV, and I was like, it looks a lot of fun to like be up on stage and, you know,
dressed up in disguises
and be crazy and play some rock and roll. So
wow. And who was the lead guitarist for Kiss?
Well, I don't remember now, actually, because Paul Stanley was the singer and Gene Simmons was the bass player. Ace Frehley. Wasn't it Ace Frehley for a while, right?
Uh-huh. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't tell you there was going to be a quiz.
Oh, yeah.
So was there Ace Frehley licks that you're like, oh, I want to play that?
Not necessarily. It was really just seeing the band and seeing the energy on TV and, you know.
And so did you like convince
I wasn't even like really a fan of theirs, to be honest. I like never really, you know, listened to them too much or, you know, really know many of their songs. I just used to see them, like clips of them live on TV, and I was like fascinated by them and their makeup and their show and just them in general. It wasn't really even about their music necessarily.
Right. But it was enough to make you want to be doing something like that.
Yeah, I wanted to play guitar. I was like, that's cool. I want to play guitar.
And so did you save up your pennies, or did you harangue your parents to get it for Christmas or birthday?
Well, I asked my parents for a guitar, but they thought, oh, it's just a phase. You know, nobody wants to invest that much money in something if they don't know their kid's going to want to do it. You know? So my cousin was taking lessons with Steve Gravino. I don't know if you know who Steve Gravino is. He's like a local legend.
Right.
You know, still plays all the time around locally. And he was like the guy to go to, you know, when I was a kid.
Right.
He was like one of the only guys around, you know. And my cousin was taking lessons with him. And my cousin never practiced, but he had this nice Fender acoustic guitar. And, you know, he had all his notes from the teacher. So I would go over and steal his guitar and just like teach myself like off of his notes on his notebook. And, you know, I learned, I think Wish You Were Here was one of my, by Pink Floyd. That was like one of the first songs I learned.
Wow.
And Black Dog by Led Zeppelin was, I think, the second. Yeah.
Wow.
So
what year was this that you're playing these songs? Because those songs are both like late 70s.
Yeah, it was like mid-80s maybe. Mm-hmm. Mid-80s.
And how old were you?
I think I was 11 at the time. 11,
I love that. Are there pictures of you as an 11-year-old girl like holding this?
Maybe somewhere. I don't know.
And what kind of a guitar did you end up with? Did you get your cousins eventually?
No. They saw that I was, you know, going over there all the time obsessively and learning all these songs. So they're like, well, maybe we should get her a guitar. So I got my first electric guitar for Christmas one year. I think I was like 11 and a half maybe.
Right.
And it was a Yamaha with a nice whammy bar and
a
little practice amp. And yeah.
That's so cool.
So I got that for Christmas, and then I got lessons, and
from
that's
Steve
how I
Gravino?
started, from Steve Gravino. Yeah.
And where was he located?
He's out by Rock City.
Okay.
Out by Battenfelds.
Uh-huh.
I think it's Battenfeld Road, actually, is what he lives on, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, so my parents would drive me out there, and I'd do an hour lesson every week, and yeah.
I love that. And where did your cousin live?
He was my neighbor.
Oh, nice. And so where was that?
That was in Rhinebeck on Haggerty Hill.
Haggerty Hill
Road, yeah. That's where I grew up.
And born into that house?
Yeah, born into that house and grew up there till I was like a teenager.
Are your folks still there?
No, they sold that house when I was like 16 or 17.
Uh-huh.
And yeah.
And what happened when you were a teenager? Did they move, or did you like move out, or?
Well, they sold the house,
Oh.
and we were supposed to move to Florida. It's a long story, but anyway,
We still
I
have
ended up
most of the hour. Yeah.
I ended up living in Florida for a couple months, too long, and then moved back up to because it didn't work out down there. But
The whole family moved back up, or just you?
well, it's a long story.
Well, you don't have to tell it.
Yeah, it's like my stepfather moved down first, and he was supposed to get a job, and we're supposed to get a house, and my mother was staying up here to work,
Right.
and then things kind of fell apart, and then I moved back up with my mom. So, yeah, it was family drama, I guess you could say.
You and your mom moved back to Rhinebeck?
Yeah, she got a house, I think, in Red Hook, actually, on Cherry Street. She rented a house, so we lived there for a while. But I was going to school in Rhinebeck.
Because you had been enrolled there, because you were living in Haggerty Hill.
Exactly, yeah.
And so did you finish up at Rhinebeck High?
I did, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
And now you teach kids from Rhinebeck High.
I do. It's really kind of trippy because the building across from the Astor Square Mall, it's like
Yes.
the insurance, Racco Insurance.
Yeah.
So that used to be a house that was owned by a friend of my mother's, this woman, Kay Henning. She had a horse farm there, and she lived in the house in the back. And that front house there where the insurance is used to be like a rental split into two units. And my mom rented that for a while. So I lived in that house for a while. I used to walk across the street and get Chinese food. And I used to hang out in that mall and rent videos there. I never guessed that I'd be in my 40s, teaching music and having a music school in that building. So it's really kind of funny.
Right. So tell everybody, where's your music school? It's the Rhinebeck School of Music. Where's it located physically?
It's in the Astor Mall. So it's off of Route 9. 6815 Route 9 is the address. Sort of across from Dell's, I guess.
Right.
Directly across from the insurance,
and
Racco
there's
Insurance.
Jade Palace or something. There's
Jade Palace is in there.
Is that what was there when you were a kid crossing the street?
It's been there forever, yeah.
It's
been
boy.
there forever, yep.
Huh.
Yeah.
Has it always been sort of the same quality of Chinese food?
I feel like when I was younger, it might have been a little better. But
a little more exotic. Maybe you just palate hasn't quite developed.
Yeah.
That's a funny little area there. Did you just call it a mall?
Yeah, I call it a mall. Yeah, I call it a mall.
Well, when you're a kid, I mean, it's sort of like a mall.
It kind of is a mall.
There's a bike store, or there was a bike store.
There's a bike store. There's the bottle shop.
The bottle shop. I go there.
There's another insurance place.
My dermatologist is there.
Your dermatologist.
Dr. Luther Lowe.
Yeah, eye doctor's there.
Oh, right, the Madigan.
Yes, the Madigan. There's a lawyer. There's a hair studio.
It's a funny little place. Yeah. So, how long did you live across the street?
Years, many years. Yeah.
So
kind
now you're seeing these kids from
Rhinebeck.
It was you.
Yeah, that was
20
me.
20 years ago or whatever.
Yeah, it's true.
How do you think the kids are different from the kids you hung out with when you were at Rhinebeck?
When I was at Rhinebeck, it was probably like the mid to late 80s into the 90s, early 90s. So, it was like a lot of big hair, a lot of tight pants.
Yeah.
A lot of Aquanet.
Aquanet.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Hairspray.
A lot of Def Leppard.
And so that said, I mean, those are all sort of superficial things. Do you see sort of any elemental changes because you're teaching these kids, you're getting to know them pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you see them doing things you're like, oh, we didn't do that, or like, oh yeah, that's the shit we all did?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much the same.
Right. And while we're here, I'll ask, what about Rhinebeck itself? What are the big changes you've seen from like the 80s when you were a kid here?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I grew up on Haggerty Hill, so I was kind of not in the village so much.
Right.
We didn't really go to the village that often unless it was the grocery shop or, we didn't really hang out so much in town.
And where did you grocery shop? Was there a Grand Union?
There was the IGA.
IGA.
The Kilmer's IGA.
Okay.
Which is now CVS.
Right, okay.
Yeah. And the local pharmacy was like right on the main street there, the hardware store.
Right.
So
opposite the IGA.
yeah. Yeah, so there were like a lot of little, small businesses in the area and, kind of self-sufficient, I guess. Like you could find a lot of things that you'd need, like grocery shop.
In the village.
And, yeah, right there in the village, yeah.
Uh-huh. And so are there elements of that you miss when you come into the village now? And you're like, oh,
It's
I miss...
funny. Even though I work in Rhinebeck and my business is in Rhinebeck, I don't make it that far.
You still not coming into the village.
Not that often.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to say I love...
Because now you work at the mall.
Right, I work at the mall.
Yeah.
So, and I live in Red Hook. So I come from Red Hook to the mall and I go home. So
right.
But I do, I love cinnamon and I love a Roy Thai and I love eating in Rhinebeck and meeting my friends there.
Right.
The falafel place.
Yeah,
there's good food.
There's so much good food.
Yeah, there's a lot of good food.
And when you were a kid, did you come in and go to restaurants?
I think what is the little diner there? Is it Blondie's? Is that
Blondie's is gone?
Oh, is it? What is it
is
now?
gone.
Is there
Pete's Famous is a
Pete's
little
Famous
coffee
is the
shop
one.
kind of place.
Okay, so when I was a kid, it was the Copper Kettle.
Okay.
And we used to eat there all the time. My mom actually used to waitress there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's where she met Billy Joel.
Wow. Do you want to?
Yeah.
Can we hear about that story?
Oh, I guess he was in the area he was married to Christy Brinkley at the time.
Right.
And they were shopping for a house up here in this area. And they just happened to go to the diner in town. And my mom was waiting tables, recognized him. And they all waited till he went up to pay his check. And they're like, can we have your autograph? So I got his autograph.
Do you still have it?
I don't think so, but... He wrote it on like a napkin or a piece of paper.
I love that. And now you're a professional musician. How do you like Billy Joel's music?
Oh, I love Billy Joel.
You do?
Yeah. Yeah, I've always loved his music. Yeah.
That's nice.
Every time I play a wedding or something, Piano Man, come on, you have to bust that out.
Uh-huh. and
Gets everybody drinking and swaying and
right. That's funny. And you play a bunch of instruments. Do you play piano as well?
I don't. That's one I don't. I play mostly stringed instruments: guitar, bass, ukulele. Yeah.
Ukulele.
Tried a little mandolin, but that's upside down from the guitar, so it's a little bit of a brain twister.
How is it upside down?
Well, a guitar is tuned in what are called fourths.
Okay.
And the opposite of that is a fifth. So, like the mandolin is tuned in fifths. So it's almost like taking your guitar upside down and visualizing all the patterns upside down from the way the guitar is tuned.
Okay.
So it's a bit of a brain twister.
Huh.
If you play violin, mandolin is an easy transition.
And did you ever play violin? Or
no, I never played violin either.
All right, so back to you at 11 and a half. It's Christmas. You get this nice little guitar and a little amplifier under the tree. And was that it? You just took off. Did you love it right away and you never?
Yeah.
It's so
Obsessed.
sweet. What's that?
Obsessed.
Uh-huh.
My parents would have to be like, are you going to come out and eat? Because I just lock myself in my room and play all the time.
That's amazing. And did you practice? Did you have like a regimen that you were working on to
anything
improve?
my teacher told me to do, I would do. I'd
right.
go home and do it. I remember, actually, since I was pretty young. I mean, thinking about it now, because I get kids that are as young as 3 or 4 starting guitar, which is super young. But at the
time, I don't know how you wrap your fingers around a guitar if you're that young.
Yeah, they get like a little 3/4 size guitar, or even a ukulele to start with, But I was like 11, and I guess Steve thought that was a little young, and he was like, "Well, I'll try, but I can't really promise anything, And I think my first lesson was to learn like all 5 patterns of the pentatonic scale up the neck. And I went home and I did it in a week, and he was just like, all right, she's my student.
all right. What are 5? Can you play? You've got your guitar here.
Yeah.
Can you play some patterns?
Sure. Well, here they are in E. Here's pattern 1. Pattern 2. Pattern 3. Pattern 4. Pattern 5. Pattern 1 again, and then you can keep going. Pattern 2, but I don't have enough room on my acoustic guitar to keep going. But
is there more room on an electric guitar?
Yeah, you have more space, more fretboard space up here.
Oh, I had no idea. How many more frets on an electric guitar?
Well, it depends. They're all different.
Okay.
Standard is probably 22 frets on on an electric.
And how many on this acoustic?
I think like comfortably I could probably play up to like 17 or 18, maybe 19. There's like 20 frets on here, but they're hard to reach as you get further up on acoustic.
And so do you still practice yourself?
I find it hard these days, with my teaching schedule, because a lot of my days are like coming up with lessons for other people, learning songs for other people. But I try probably not as, regimented as I used to be.
Learning songs for other people. What does that mean?
Well, if people want to learn a particular song,
you need to learn it first.
I need to learn it,
Right. And I saw online, and you have so many on YouTube, so many beautiful videos of you making really gorgeous music. And one of them was you saying you were learning this Cage the Elephant song on the ukulele so you could teach it to somebody else.
Yes, yeah.
It was so gorgeous. And if anybody's like listening at home, go to YouTube, Google Erin Hobson, and find this Cage the Elephant thing. It was really
Trouble was the name of the song. Trouble, yeah.
Yeah,
that's got a really nice melodic guitar part. But so a lot of what I find is like when you play ukulele, right? There aren't a lot of arrangements for guitar songs that people really enjoy the guitar parts to, arranged for the ukulele.
Okay.
So like a lot of when I teach ukulele, it's a lot of arranging guitar parts for the instrument so people can play the songs that they like, that they hear on the guitar.
Right.
Yeah.
And so is there, for all your students on the guitar, is there a song that like they all want to learn? And I'm thinking of that Wayne's World thing.
Oh my gosh.
The sign
in the Stairway to Heaven?
Yeah. The sign in the guitar shop says no stairway to heaven.
No stairway, yeah. That's actually not a popular one these days. Stairway to Heaven.
It shows my
Used
age.
to be. Used to be for a while.
It used to be that students would come and want to learn how to play that.
All the time. But lately that one has kind of fallen out of favor.
Uh-huh.
I would say these days, Comfortably Numb by Pink Floyd is a really popular one.
Huh.
Yeah, a lot of people want to learn that.
And that's off of the wall from 45 years ago.
Because, I have a lot of young kids that are like my age, or, that were my age when I started playing, and they're into all this older music.
Huh.
Yeah.
Now,
they're really into that stuff.
Comfortably Numb, I happen to know, comes up sometimes as like one of the best guitar solos ever, is the David Gilmour.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Huh. So you get kids, they're like, I want to learn to play that.
Yeah.
Can you play a few bars now?
Not on acoustic guitar.
No.
It's
yeah,
hard.
I guess not.
It's like, because there's too many bends.
Right. Do you need a whammy bar for that?
Yeah. Not a whammy bar, but you need to be able to like bend the strings up here.
Right.
Pretty far.
And they don't bend as easily on an acoustic?
Not as easily, no.
Huh. It's so beautiful. I wish I could do that.
Then this one. It's hard to get that bend. And then I love this. It's like such a beautiful...
It is.
Solo.
It's gorgeous. Yeah, and he's got a bunch of gorgeous solos.
his
like Time.
Stuff, I mean,
on
Dark Side. His stuff is special. It's very special.
That's funny. So did you have early on sort of a guitar hero where you're like, oh yeah, I want to play like that?
It's changed through the years. I think initially...
So let's go through the progression.
Yeah, the progression. I didn't really listen to a lot of music when I started playing guitar, which was funny. Huh. So I just kind of like went by what my cousin was listening to, which was, Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin mostly. So
not too bad.
Yeah. But, Steve, he's more about, learning your scales and, your theory and all of that. Not so much learning songs.
Right.
So I think in my early studies, it was more about learning scales and, practicing to a metronome and doing really regimented things,
Right.
Not really learning so many songs. The songs I mostly learned from my cousin, who was...
Where's your cousin now? Does he still play?
I don't think so. He's still around. He's a state trooper now. So.
Oh, nice. And is his name Hobson as well?
Yeah.
And now Hobson is a fairly well-known Rhinebeck name because there are so many shops. Hobson says Hobson's that.
Right, exactly. I was going to name my studio Hobson Music. No.
That's funny.
But I have a partner, so.
Right. And who's your partner in the studio? It's the Rhinebeck School
Carl
of Music.
Allwire.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah, we're both the directors of the studio.
Right. And how long has that been there?
6 years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And before that, you were part of some other music.
Mark's Music.
Mark's Music.
Yeah.
Which
Down
was
the
nice.
street. Yeah.
Down the street. Mark was a nice guy.
Definitely.
And what happened? He retired and you went off on your
Yeah,
own?
he closed shop, and he allowed us to actually stay in the back rooms for a while he moved out. We kind of had a deal with the landlord so that he didn't like completely, leave us high and dry without a studio to teach. And then Carl and I just looked around for places, and we found that space, and it was a former dentist's office.
Oh, geez. And so when you move in, did anything need to be done acoustically to make it suitable for music making?
Yeah, because when we moved in, it was there was a sink in every room. There was plumbing coming out of the floor for the the chairs for the water for the dental chairs. My room's the old X-ray room. There's like a rail up on the ceiling where they used to take the camera back and forth. And
oh, right.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. It was pretty wild when we moved in, but the landlords did all of that before we moved in. They had to get somebody to cut the pipes and repair the floors and take out the sinks and all of that stuff. So
right. And so how's business?
It's great.
That's good.
Great, yeah.
And
always busy.
And how did you do during the lockdown, the big lockdown part of the pandemic?
Yeah, that was tough. But we just went remote for 7 months. Taught out of my house. And
were there people who were like, yeah, we don't want to do it remote? Did you lose clients?
Initially there was a little bit of a drop off, and then everybody got super bored and nobody had anything else to do, right?
That's hilarious.
And their kids were home, and they were just give this kid something
kids
to
do that.
Yeah. So
did you have to ever have to turn away potential students? We just don't have any space.
A lot of times I do, but it's scheduling, if they have like a specific schedule and I just don't have time in my schedule, to fit them in. But
so somebody comes to you, they're like, say 13 and they want to learn to play guitar. How long are the lessons? Like half hour?
Yeah, a half hour to start, and then more advanced, an hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so where do you start them? Where do you start these people just learning?
I kind of cater to the individual and their goals, what they want to do, because some people aren't serious, you know what I mean? They just kind of want to have fun and, just do something as a hobby. And then other people are more motivated, where they're like, no, I have a goal. I want to go to music school, or no, I really want to know what's going on. And so I don't know, every first lesson, I just assess like where they're at and what their goals are and kind of teach them from there.
And do you start the teaching with scales and stuff as your teacher?
Yeah,
did?
I mean, if they're a serious musician, yeah, then reading music obviously is important. Scales are important. Learning basic chords, strumming patterns, rhythm, playing with a metronome.
Right. Metronomes. I love metronomes.
You love them?
You'd
be the only one.
The old wooden ones that look like an
yeah,
obelisk.
They're cool. They're cool.
They're pretty cool.
They are very cool.
And so, adults, you get many adults coming in?
Yeah, plenty.
That's
plenty,
nice.
Yeah.
That's sweet. Do they mostly want to play guitar, or people want to learn ukulele too?
I feel like ukulele is sort of less popular these days.
Oh.
For a while, it was really popular.
Okay.
And I don't know, I feel like lately I have less ukulele students than guitar students. For a while, it was sort of almost even, like I'd have, half and half almost.
Right.
But lately I feel like more people want to know guitar than ukulele. So.
Interesting.
Which is fine by me, because it's actually easier. There's more music readily available and arranged for guitar.
You don't have to transcribe
transcribe things
song
or
for ukulele.
find things for to apply things to.
And I saw on your website you have a thing called Sip and Strum.
Yes.
What is Sip and Strum? It sounds like a blast.
Sip and paint, but with guitars. It's a similar concept. So I used to do these all the time at Towsey Winery in Germantown. And I would do them monthly, actually, before the pandemic. And I had, a pretty good following. Like, we'd get like 12, 15 people in there. It was pretty good. It was always packed. It was always sold out.
And they'd come and have some wine and learn
so
some
like,
chords.
they pay like one price that included like a glass of wine. And I make up like charts of like, I don't know, 7 or 8 songs to go through. And beforehand, I send everybody the charts and the chords so they can practice. If they have questions, they can, write me with questions.
So it's not for beginners.
It's not for complete beginners,
Right.
but it is beginner oriented. Like most of the set is chords that basic, beginners would know. And then I throw in a couple harder ones at the end. It's for a little more of a challenge to see what happens.
And so what's typically on the set list? What kinds of things?
Okay, so I'm going to do one in March.
Yeah, March 10th.
March
at the
10th
Lasting
at
Joy
Lasting
Brewery.
Joy Brewery in Tivoli. It's a new
And
place.
what's your URL for your website?
RhinebeckSchoolMusic.com.
Rhinebeck School. And people can go there and they can sign up for this.
Sure. They can sign up for the Sip and Strum.
Yeah, on March 10th.
It's open to guitar. It's open to ukulele. Actually, we have a harpist that comes now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Which is super cool. And mandolin, like anybody who can play like read chord charts and wants to either just play and strum along or they can sing along as well.
Sounds like a blast.
Yeah, it's a total blast because I think that's what people miss a lot is like being able to get together with other people to play. Everybody practices in their own room and, it's an outlet to just sort of, be social and meet people and play together. Which,
right.
Is super important when you're learning an instrument,
And so what are some of the songs that you'd play, the easier ones? And
so
the
like
harder
a 3-chord song would be like Can't You See by Marshall Tucker, DCG, the whole song.
That's that. Can we hear DCG?
Easy. Well, like and
was that DCG in order just now?
Yeah, D, C, G, and then back to D. That's the whole song. Can't you see? Can't you see what that woman, she's been doing to me? And that, that's a really easy one for a beginner because it's the same 3 chords on a loop.
It still seems too complicated
so you
for
can
me.
Kind of, So that's an easy one, but then it gets more complicated as we go. We do, Annie's Song by John Denver, which has a ton of chords.
All right, come on, hum a few bars.
And it's got suspended chords. That's pretty advanced. I actually need a chart for that one. I don't have the chords memorized,
what are some of the other songs that?
For What It's Worth.
Oh, love that song.
Buffalo Springfield. Right?
Yeah.
Better stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. So that was fairly easy too.
That's a gorgeous song.
Yeah. So that's 3.
That's good enough. So you get a group of people together and they're all doing this. It just sounds like, and they're drinking wine, or in this case, on March 10th, drinking beer, I guess.
Yeah, there's beer. Well, actually, Lasting Joy has a lot of options. They have local cider. I think they have local wine. They have their own beer that they brew, and then they have a lot of non-alcoholic stuff like kombucha, or like custom seltzers that they make with syrups. And,
right.
Yeah.
That must be a blast for you to do that.
It's great. I love it. And
great idea.
Yeah, and it's got a good. There's definitely some diehard followers. It's like I put the email out, and there's like a handful of people that are always like, bam.
That's great.
Sign me up now.
And how big is the class? You must limit it to some number.
I've limited it to like 12 to 14, 15 people.
Right.
But I think this one, we're going to be doing it indoors in their tap room.
Okay.
And she said, yeah, you can go up to 20, 25 people if you want.
Oh, boy.
Like, I don't know if I could handle a group of 20, 25 people, but...
Because you're wandering around helping them
I'm helping
get the chords right.
Yeah, and trying to, call out the chords. I want everybody to be able to see me and hear me, and, because I'm leading the group. So,
right.
If it's a more contained group, that's easier to do. And it's easier for them to follow along and hear me and,
love that.
Understand the direction.
In theory.
Yeah.
And you lead another group. You've got a band, right?
Right now I don't, actually. Yeah.
Was misinformed.
You were misinformed. Yeah. I used to have a band.
Uh-huh.
I played with for a while.
The Compact?
The Compact, yeah.
And what happened to them? Just say Yoko,
well, I opened the
Yoko
music
Ono.
school. Well, I opened the music school.
Oh, okay.
And it was just so time consuming, like everything that we had to do to get up and running and get going. And then my schedule went from, teaching maybe 40 people a week to like 60 people a week.
Wow.
And so, yeah, it was a lot. So I felt like I needed to relax on that and just take a break. So
Right. But you do play out from time to time.
Occasionally, yeah. Occasionally. I don't as much as I used to. I mean, I used to play like every weekend for years.
Yeah. And now you play, you said you play weddings?
Yeah. I play parties and weddings and, things like that. Or little, people hire me to do little cocktail events or,
right.
Whatever.
Now, I read that you went to school at SUNY New Paltz for jazz theory.
Yeah, jazz performance.
Jazz performance.
That was my major, yeah.
And so do you play, that sounds like a perfect thing to play at a wedding or a little party or something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that definitely, yeah.
And do you still play a lot of jazz?
Not as much as I used to, but I still love it. It's always a challenge for me to play jazz. So,
More of a challenge than rock?
Way more.
Really? Or folk? Huh.
Yeah.
And this is leading up to me asking you to play some jazz. So who were some of your jazz guitar heroes?
Oh, all the greats.
All of them.
Joe Pass, Jim Hall, Wes Montgomery, Barney Kessel. I studied with a guy in California when I lived out there for a while, Ron Eshte, who's he plays with Diana Krall, and he plays with, he played with Joe Pass, and he's been on like couple hundred Concord jazz recordings.
Egads.
I'd go to a lesson, he'd be like, turn on Jay Leno tonight. So I'd turn on Jay Leno, he'd be there accompanying, in a suit and tie playing with Diana Krall. like he was the real deal. He was great. He was great.
How sweet.
Yeah.
And did you at one point in your youth or in studying in college think that would be your career, sort of a performing professional?
I wanted to be like a jazz guitar player for the longest time.
Right.
But I actually had to drop out of school. I never finished my degree because I had hand issues. So I stopped playing for, 3 years, 4 years.
And did the hand issues resolve in those 3 and 4 years off?
Yeah, I had a severe allergy to dairy products. And once I stopped eating dairy, but it took me a long time to diagnose that and figure that out. So,
and who figured that out? You or medical?
A doctor in California. Yeah, he said stop eating dairy, and it was like a systemic inflammatory thing. I had all these symptoms of like carpal tunnel and like rheumatoid arthritis and swelling, and I couldn't play guitar for more than like a couple minutes a week. It was depressing.
Oh, that sounds
super
horrible.
Depressing. So it derailed my whole, plan at that time. I was like in my early 20s when that happened. So,
and it took that long for some medical professional to finally say, "Oh," and did this doctor say that's what it is, or why don't you try giving?
Yeah, kind of like, why don't you try this?
Because it might be that.
Yeah, and it ended up being right on the nose,
And so, have you worked any dairy back into your diet? Or you still
stay away from it? I don't touch it anymore.
Right.
Not after that.
Yeah, I don't think I would.
No, yeah. Well, it's funny because I was diagnosed with a dairy allergy when I was younger, like 8 or 9.
Uh-huh.
And then I started eating it again in my teens, and it didn't manifest the same symptoms. So I thought, I'm over this allergy. Like I can still do this. I can still eat dairy. And I continued to eat dairy. And I started working at a pizza restaurant and then eating way too much dairy all the time.
Yeah. In California or New Paltz?
In California.
Rhinebeck? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how long were you out in California?
I think 7 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then you came back here?
Yeah, I came back here.
Why did you come back to your hometown?
Well, I don't have any family out in California. And
okay.
And I miss my family. That's kind of the
reason. It's a great reason.
My brother was 6 when I left. I didn't really get to see him grow up. And, I have a sister in the area. And I have, my mom and dad and,
Are they all
my
still
cousins.
around here?
Yeah, they're all still in Rhinebeck and Red Hook and Poughkeepsie, around the general area.
Right. Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah.
And so are they all home for like Thanksgiving and Christmas and holiday dinners and stuff?
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah.
Right. And how's that? Do you get along with all of them?
I get along with my mom.
Your mom. I love that.
And
so brother,
and my
sister,
siblings,
dad,
my
if you're
siblings,
listening,
my
try
siblings.
harder.
No, my siblings and my mom. Yeah.
And dad,
Yeah.
not so much?
Oh, we had a little bit of a falling out a couple years ago. We haven't really spoken since.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
God, I hope you patch it up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hope so.
I hope both of you, no matter what, can just step out of the hurt and patch that shit up.
Yeah.
And I say this because my sister and my mom didn't get along, and then mom died,
Right.
and my sister was left with
that.
all this shit that was
Right.
unresolved, and
Yeah.
it's not been fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see that for sure.
And I got to ask, you don't have to answer, of course. What was the falling out about?
Well, my dad is a big Trumper,
Oh,
and it was politics
Okay.
mainly. But my whole life he's kind of been a bully to me about politics. He's always been very right wing. I've always been very left wing, and he came into my place of business when we had a mask policy back when COVID was, ranging. I'm wearing a mask. He comes in without a mask, and I say, "Dad, where's your mask?" And he says, "There's no mandate in New York State anymore." And I said, "Well, we have a policy. We're trying to, keep
Right.
everybody safe here, my teachers and my students." And, he got really belligerent with me. And we said some words, and he stormed off, and he hasn't spoken to me since.
Oh, God. Well, I hope he calls up and apologizes. And are any of your family members listening tonight, you think?
I don't know. Hard to say. I don't know.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they can hear it later online.
They can hear it
if
later
they
online.
want.
Yeah.
All right, so I wanted to ask you to play some jazz thing.
Oh, yeah, some jazz, yeah.
And I want to ask, did you ever tune into like Django, who was sort
Oh
of
my
jazz?
God, I love Django, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was in actually a gypsy jazz cover band for a while.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What were they called?
Doing Django Reinhardt covers. We used to play a lot of weddings and parties. And
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Erin Hobson
bars.
playing some Django. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to play any Django.
I was going to ask if you want to brave it. I mean, that's some energetic shit.
It is, yeah. Yeah, it takes a lot. It
Yeah.
takes a lot of strength to get through a set of that.
All right, well, then maybe some George Benson.
Some George Benson.
The other end of the jazz spectrum.
Yeah, let's see.
It is so gorgeous. So that I'm going to go out on a limb here. That's Georgia.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
who wrote that?
Was it Hoagie Carmichael?
I was going to guess
right?
that. I should have guessed that. And when do you remember when you first heard that?
I might have heard the Ray Charles version. Actually, was the first time I heard that song. Him singing and playing it, which was amazing.
Yeah, I'll bet.
But so many people have obviously covered that through the years.
I think the first time I heard it was Willie Nelson.
Oh, really?
On Stardust.
I don't even know that if I've heard that version.
Amazing album.
Oh, really? I got to check that out now.
Yeah, it's so good. And I was thinking of him earlier when I asked you about your guitar, because guitarists most of them seem to have a really strong relationship with their guitar.
Oh, yeah.
And you said you've had this for decades.
Yeah.
Do you have
I opened for Willie Nelson years ago, actually.
No way.
Yeah. I was like from me to like the wall, like watching him perform at UPAC.
Wow.
Yeah, he was amazing. So talk about like a guitar that he's had forever. That guitar, like the one he had, he plays that has like the hole. It's like a hole worn into it because he's played it for so long.
Yeah.
But he still plays that guitar.
Right.
He could get a new guitar.
I'll bet he could probably afford one.
Yeah.
Despite the tax
but that's
problems.
the one that he wants to play and likes to play.
Right. So sweet.
Yeah.
So do you have other acoustic guitars that you will try out
this
for
is the
different
only
kinds of
acoustic
things?
guitar I own. I have 2 electric guitars. I have a Strat, and I have a Gibson 335.
And we'll use them for different
for different
songs.
things, different sounds. Yeah.
And how were the sounds different?
The Stratocaster has more of a bright sound, and it's more like I can get like funky with that, bluesy with that. You can bend the strings a little easier.
Right.
It's kind of a versatile guitar, though. If you own a Strat, you can play a lot of different stuff. Right. Yeah.
And one of the things I went on your site, you do a lot of instrument rental.
Oh yeah, for the school. Yep. We do.
So people can come in and like try out different kinds of guitars to sort of figure out which one they like.
Exactly.
Which sounds really great.
Yeah, we got the idea because I feel like a lot of people want to start lessons, but they don't want to make the investment into an instrument if they're not sure they're going to continue lessons, right? So if they can rent an acoustic guitar for $15 for the month, right, and try it out with lessons,
right,
then that's better than investing hundreds of dollars, right, into an instrument that they're never going to play again. Right. So if there was that option available when I was a kid, I would have started guitar a lot sooner. Right.
And back to your website, you have this thing that intrigued me. It's called Record a Song.
Oh, yes.
Which sounds like so much fun.
Yeah. We've actually put out quite a few student demos with that option. Yeah, so there's this guy, John Ross. He's actually kind of my neighbor in Red Hook. He lives up in Red Hook. But, he's been a songwriter, for many years. And, he uses Logic Pro and his computer, really basic setup. And, you can go over to his house and he'll set it up and,
So people come in with the song sort of like fully formed?
Yeah.
And then it's a professional
So somebody
studio
wants
kind
to
of...
record a song that they wrote or even a cover. They can go in and it really depends. Like we've actually done pretty full productions on the student demos that we've done. Older students that kind of just had some folkier stuff that they wrote. Right. And he would record them live basically and then send the track to Carl, my partner, and he'd put on like electric guitar. He'd send it to a friend who'd put on drums,
Oh, no way. I want backing vocals.
Yeah.
And so you can do all of that.
Yeah.
That sounds like a blast.
Yeah.
And is that a pretty popular offering for you?
It was when we first started doing it. Yeah. Yeah. We haven't done one in a while, but yeah. There aren't a lot of students that we have that write their own material. It's just not a thing.
Right.
There's a lot of older students who do that, but we just don't get a lot of students that write or compose. So
right, okay. And then another offering on the website is Rock Performance Workshop.
Oh yeah, we're excited about that.
What is that? It sounded a little bit like School of Rock.
Kinda. So yeah, I mean, it's just the idea we have all these students and that range from 12 and 13 to 16, 18. and they really want to be in a band and they really want to perform. So the idea was just to take, a group of them and put them together, and they all get to choose 1 or 2 songs that they really like, that they want to play. And we just, get them together and we learn the songs.
Oh, that sounds like a blast.
And then the end of it is we've rented out the local in Saugerties, which is a new venue. I don't know if you've heard of it, but the Dutch Reformed Church on John Street in Saugerties.
Oh, okay.
They've transformed it into like a real performance space. They have full backline.
Oh, so cool.
Like a drum set there. They got all the microphones and amps and PA system.
I've never been
amazing.
there.
It's amazing. And they have all kinds of, you should check out their calendar. Amazing stuff.
And is that sort
up.
of like on the hill south of town by the curves? Is it that?
Yeah, it's
church?
like right in town, like by the movie theater. You know where the movie theater is?
Oh, it's right there. Okay.
If you're driving by the movie theater, it's like on the left. You take a left on John Street.
Right.
And it's right there.
Nice.
Yeah. It's a cool space. So they're going to get to perform there at the end of it. End of April. So we're going to do like 8 rehearsals beforehand.
And then how many songs will they have finished?
We're hoping for like around a dozen to 14.
Right.
So
that sounds.
We don't even know. We're going to see how it goes when they get together.
And how are you at spreading the word on social media and stuff?
Yeah, I mean we can only really probably hold like 10 people in the class because the space.
No, I mean for the audience, for the concert.
Oh, for the concert, yeah. Yeah, I mean we've put it on our website so far, but when it gets closer, I mean the date is like April 28th, I think is when it is. So as we get closer, we'll definitely promote the show and tell people about it and try to get people out to see them.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And are you students primarily from Rhinebeck, Red Hook area?
I'd say, yeah, mostly Rhinebeck, but we get a lot from Pine Plains, Hyde Park, and even Ulster County, coming from Kingston, Saugerties area. And
have any gone on to musical renown?
I have one student that I taught a while ago. She ended up going to Berkeley, and then she ended up touring with like Nate Roos and like, making music for movies and film and like television and Suleen Vanderwalt is her name. But
Berkeley,
she went to
that's
Rhinebeck.
the school in Boston, a renowned school of music, right?
Yeah.
Well, that must be kind of satisfying.
Yeah, it's very cool.
So cool.
Very cool.
Do you play at home mostly? You often? Are you playing at home making music? You've got kids? You've got a wife? Do you have kids?
I have a wife, and I have lots of cats.
Lots of cats. Oh, right. I saw you had on Facebook. I saw you had twin cats. It looked like.
Yeah. Sisters. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I got sister kittens.
Sister kittens. That's good.
Yeah, they're very cute.
And does your wife make music too?
She played violin for a while. And she does attend my sip and strums. She plays ukulele.
Oh, fun.
So she'll dust it off for those, but it's not like she plays all the time. But
right.
She's into horseback riding. That's her passion.
Oh, nice.
She likes horses and riding horses. So.
Well, that's fun.
Yeah. That's her thing.
That's great. So do you learn any like cowboy songs? Who's it? Bob Wills and
I haven't.
Gene
no.
Autry and
yeah. The horse with no name.
Well, that's it. Valentine's Day is coming up. You could.
I know, right?
Learn
That's a good idea.
Some Western songs for the missus. And so you're married to, and she's not a musician, but I wanted to ask. We were talking about this before we came on. You grew up in Rhinebeck. You went to Rhinebeck High School. And when did you realize that you were gay? And I was especially curious to know what it would have been like to be out in Rhinebeck High.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I didn't, like I said, I didn't really know a lot of gay people, and I didn't really know, honestly, that gay people really existed.
Okay.
Like, I didn't know it was an option, I guess.
Right.
It was never really talked about. It wasn't really seen on, it's not like today where you can see it,
all the time,
in commercials or like on TV or in a movie or,
it
was like an underground kind of hidden
So when did you first sort of see somebody say, wait a minute, what's going on?
Well, there was one girl in high school who was a lesbian, and I knew her. But I didn't really put it together that's what, I don't know. It's weird. I didn't really put it together that's what a lesbian was,
And how did she just tell people she was a lesbian?
Yeah, it was known that she was a lesbian.
And did she have a girlfriend too? It's like,
I don't think
lesbian
so.
is my girlfriend.
I'm not sure.
That's how it works.
I didn't really know her that well or hang out with her that much. So I don't know.
And so at some point, you just said, you know what, I'm not
Well, I think all my life I knew I was a little different and had attractions to women. But I didn't know it was an option.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, it wasn't until I think I was in LA and we went to West Hollywood West LA, where all the gay clubs are. It's like a strip of like gay clubs, and there were men just like holding hands, like walking across the street, and they were everywhere, like just gay men everywhere. Right. And I was like, whoa, that exists in the world. Like, yeah. It just like blew my mind.
It's an amazing
And I was like,
thing.
Maybe that's what's wrong with me. Maybe
that's what's wrong.
Well, like why I never really dated that much in high school, or was like very interested in having relationships, you know? Like I was always...
So now it's, what'd you say, is the late 80s, 90s?
That was probably the late 90s.
Okay.
Late 90s.
Which was about the time this woman, Jill Sobule, had that hit, I Kissed a Girl.
Right.
Which was, and I saw her, she did a play in New York City about coming out to herself and coming out and writing that song, which was sort of an early anthem.
Right.
And shortly after that, did you like have a crush on somebody? I mean...
Yeah.
Am I getting too personal?
No,
here?
not at all. Not at all. I'm just trying to remember because this is like early 20s. I moved out to California with a boyfriend, actually. And he was a musician. He was a bass player. And we were together for a while.
Right.
And I didn't know it, but all of his friends used to go up and be like, dude, why are you dating a lesbian?
Oh, no, really?
Yeah. It's like everybody knew but me.
And he told you this later?
Yeah. Like people told me later that, oh, yeah, we knew that you were gay.
Right.
I didn't know that I was gay, but everybody else kind of knew that I was.
That's so funny.
And then I think, yeah, I met some girls in California, and I dated a few girls, and I was like, yeah, this is more me. This is more like what I think I'm supposed to be doing.
Okay. And here's what I wanted to circle around to. How did your parents take that?
My mom was fine. My mom's like totally open.
Yeah. And dad?
And dad was like, where did I go wrong? And he hung up the phone and didn't talk to me for 6 months. And then he came around later. And then, he actually really likes my wife.
Right.
And he came around to it, I think. But I think it was an initial shock.
Right. And so back to high school, you hadn't figured this out, but there was a lesbian in your class. How was the experience, do you think, for her being out at Rhinebeck High?
I'm sure it was tough because 80s. I don't think there was a lot of support. I don't think there were a lot of people that she, could have met who were in that community.
Right.
Or people that, she could talk to or even date or,
right.
Or feel open with.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was tough. I mean, now I see, because I get a lot of kids from Rhinebeck. There's a lot of trans kids. There's a lot of gay kids.
Right.
Open, very out, just talking about it like it's just a thing. Like,
it's so beautiful.
Yeah. It's not even, and, even my niece who's 13 who goes to Arlington, she's just like, yeah, it's like normal. It's a normal thing to be gay or trans or it's just,
right.
It's just
unless you're in Florida.
Yeah. Or a certain age group, maybe.
Right.
Right.
No, but
these kids now, I mean, I think doesn't bother them at all. It doesn't seem to anyway. The kids that I know and me, like nobody says anything ill of, people being gay, and they all have friends and they lead pretty normal
It's just
lives,
something now.
Yeah, it's just a thing. So
yeah.
But it definitely was not that way, of course, when I was in high school. Like I said, I didn't know really anybody. I didn't know it was an option.
Right. And I don't know where people did know it was an option. I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, and that there was nothing there. I mean, right. I went to high school in the 70s.
Sure.
That sort of said, oh yeah, that's a thing that people are and do, and you could do that too. There was no context for any of that.
Yeah.
Which is just tough.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, it's definitely changed.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask you about some of your favorite guitarists, and I looked up online sort of the best guitarists of all time in different genres.
Okay.
And one of the things that impressed me was that they're all dudes.
Yeah.
They're all dudes.
Right.
Do you have favorite female guitarists?
Well, it's funny. Like that was something, you know, when I was learning to play, I was like, wow, there's really no women in this field.
Yeah.
You know? And it's funny because like I used to put out, when I was in college, I used to put out things in the paper looking for a band or people to jam with. And I remember one guy called me up and he goes, "Oh, you're a woman," kind of thing. Like, you can't possibly be very good, you know?
Right.
Or like, you know, maybe I knew a little more than a male student at college and they would get really mad and, you know, upset and insecure because a woman could play something better than they could or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's definitely, like, it's hard. It's hard to, even now, like it's, you know, it's definitely a male-dominated field.
Into the field of being a guitar player.
Yeah. But obviously, like, one jazz guitar player that I really liked was Emily Remler. Mm-hmm. She was a great female jazz guitar player. I used to listen to her a lot.
Wow.
Like, well, there's one.
Emily Remler.
Emily Remler.
And then I went to the Google and said, you know, best rock guitarist, best jazz guitarist, best country guitarist, and Dolly Parton came up.
Oh yeah, Dolly.
And I was like, wow, I didn't really think of her as a guitarist. And then Bonnie Raitt.
Bonnie Raitt's incredible though. Yeah, she's amazing.
And then Sister Rosetta Tharpe.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
So do you play country or gospel at all?
You know, a little bit here and there. I mean, I try to play a little bit of everything, you know. I'm pretty open in terms of, you know, music. I just love music, so.
Right. That's just great.
So whatever, you know, people want to play, I'll try it. And
do you write many of your own songs as well? Or are you
I used
happier?
to. I haven't in a long time. Used to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? We're out of time.
Wow. That went by quickly.
Well, I told you it would. So thank you so much for being here. Any last words for anybody who wants to learn to play an instrument?
Well, look us up. Rhinebeck School of Music.
Rhinebeck School of Music.
RhinebeckSchoolofMusic.com. Yeah.
Yeah. You've got so many fun offerings.
Yeah.
And you're such a beautiful player.
Oh, thank you.
And thank you so much for coming in, Erin Hobson.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Have a fabulous evening and a great weekend.